Todd Stanton built something that most of the people in the legal industry probably said wouldn't work 15 years ago, and it's still working and thriving. He has a human-centered business model for his law firm, the way it bills, the way it pays, the way it treats its people, and, as you'll hear, its dogs. He's a friend, and he goes deep at a moment's notice, which I appreciate, as evidenced by the fact that I have a podcast. If you're a business owner with employment law headaches, look up the Stanton Law Firm in Atlanta. They help business owners from a wide range of backgrounds and do them right. But what we're getting into today goes beyond law, and that's the point. It's not meant as just an advertisement for his law firm, as you'll see. One more thing, and as is the case often with fledgling content productions, we did not record the video here, so this will just be the audio with a still picture. So perhaps you can listen to it on your way to work, on a run, something like that. But the audio's there, and it's just fine. Here's Todd Stanton. Todd, good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
You have an unconventional but very human-centered, I would say, approach to law. Before you started your law firm, Stanton Law, was there a specific moment or situation where something crystallized and led to you operating your law firm the way you
do? No, it has gradually evolved into this based upon an increasing awareness that the system is broken. And the system itself is just grinding things out. It is process-based, it is not common sense-based, and it is a machine that will just keep moving and grinding out and churning fees and wrecking things as long as it will. I don't think that that is anything new to anybody, but I've become increasingly aware of that. And the more that I can center on giving people practical solutions that are kind of grounded in some acceptance that we're not changing the system, that we got to work well within it, and deal with the hand we're dealt, is how this has evolved. And as you know, I've been in recovery for a really long time, and 20 years, and the notion that AA as an organization can function with just a human element with very few rules, that to me is what comes about this, to make sure that we have the human first. The money will come, but making sure we're solving problems really is the message that I want to deliver, and what we built the firm around. But that to answer your question, it has not been something that was an epiphany and not necessarily purpose from the beginning, but it certainly has become the purpose now.
All right. So since I know a little bit about how your business model works, but the people watching or listening to this, all 15 of them or 20 or however many, how would you describe how it works?
Well, that's 15 or 20 people that I didn't know before on this, so that's good. We're a mission-based firm, and our mission is to have a profitable and sustainable firm so that we can lead fulfilling lives. And let me back into this a little bit with an analogy. It's probably coming out sometime soon, if it hasn't already, in which the Atlanta Business Chronicle or the Fulton County Daily Report or any of these other sort of business trade rags will announce all of the Midtown's firms' profits per partner and how much revenue was up for their law firm. And when I see all of those things, I know what is getting done there because I see what's being measured. And all of those profitability statistics, all of the revenue statistics show that they are driving that for billable hours. And I never hear them talking about the value that comes out of it for their employees or for their clients. And at Stanton Law, we certainly, money is important, and we're in this to make a profit on this. But it's also important to me that we have that other part about the fulfilling lives on it. We have a very casual office environment with dogs in the office. Our rates are below market for the types of service and the experience that we have. We would rather go into that long-term relationship and find ways that we can satisfy what we want out of a attorney-client relationship while we're providing what the client needs out of that same thing. So we have an employee satisfaction survey. We call it our why survey, in which we try to balance that with, do they have enough work on their plate? Do they feel like they can say no or not yet to clients and partners? Do they get to work when and how they want to? We measure that alongside the financial performance. And so we try to paint a broader picture of what it means to run a successful small law firm.
Yes. That's great, man. The dog part, I got caught up on the dog part. I didn't know that y'all had dogs in your office. Is that a very common thing, or is it you can if you want to kind of thing?
Sadie is my 4-year-old Australian Shepherd who comes with me every day. Marvin is a 2-year-old Aussie Doodle who comes most every day, and the others, Marvin and Bella and Luli, come in and out. Running a law office with dogs in it is certainly a novelty, and it's not for everybody, right? I mean, there are certain people who are not going to find that nearly as charming as others do. But I've learned that that's fine. I think part of running a successful practice and an easier practice is being able to be authentic. And I enjoy the company of my dog, quite honestly, more than most people. I think everybody, if they were honest, would say that too.
Me too.
It's not hard. And so we've made the decision that that's there. And if somebody wants a law firm that doesn't have dogs in the office, there's lots of them right over there that would be more than happy to service you well and show off their art collection and parking garage rather than their 3 or 4 dogs. And it's important to note, it is not for everybody. It's a pain in the ass. The dogs are going to bark when they're not supposed to. They're going to mess when they're not supposed to. But I think that on the whole, I know on the whole, we've made the decision that an office with dogs in it is better than an office without it.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. As much as anything you've said so far, and I agree with a lot of what you said so far. I did not realize that is a big deal, especially a dog like mine, who has. I had to go to 5 or 6 different boarders before anyone would take her. She's a great dog, but she needs me around. But back to what you were saying about the business model, aside from the dogs, how are results created, or how are results derived? It seems to me, my impression is, because the daily reports about profitability of law firms that you referenced are based on billable hours, right? Not necessarily results for clients. How have you found your model produces results, and how do those compare to, say, those that come out of a billable hour model?
Well, we still have, the majority of our work is still on for better or for worse, still on a billable hour model. The time and materials basis for now is seemingly the thing that people are most comfortable with. And so it's not a matter of that we've abandoned and gone completely to a value-based model. We're working towards that. AI is making that much easier to do if it's not becoming an imperative to do, right? The time it takes for us to generate quality work product is ostensibly decreasing with the use of AI. But like most technology, I think the work sort of expands to fit. So even if I'm getting good initial drafts out of Claude or ChatGPT, and even if we're able to research things more quickly, it still takes a long time to put it back into context. And as a quick aside here, I think that one of the ways that this has negatively impacted us, we're a management representation shop. I'm a management representation lawyer that does defense. AI has made it much more egalitarian to generate good initial work product. Where lawyers provide value and where we earn our dollars is refining that good initial work product into something that's really, really good, something that is very persuasive, something that meets the needs of everybody involved and captures the context as well as the facts and the law. Where we see the problem is where a client sends us what they think is a done draft of a project, of a work product, and says, all I need you to do is review this, and thinks that it will cut down on the time that's involved. And it doesn't, because in any AI generated mechanism, there's 5, 10, 15% of it that's wrong. And then there's no way for me to communicate that to a non-lawyer or a pro se plaintiff that it is incorrect without sounding like a pedantic prick about I went to law school and you didn't. It is very difficult to do. So where we're striving to articulate and demonstrate the value is in that last 10-15% of a project. Here is why this has, while it's legally correct, here's also the practical value that you're going to get out of this and why this has a better ROI than the other to a business than the other alternatives that we were considering at any particular time.
Yeah. I haven't heard it articulated like that, the AI's effect on law, but that's very well said. And pointing to your point about how sometimes 5 to 10% of it's incorrect. Sometimes that 5-10% is like the whole basis of whatever is drafted, right? So you have to go back and do the whole damn thing again.
Exactly. I think that where we strive to provide value on this is looking at what problem the client is really trying to solve. So and then taking our generalist expertise and putting the specific facts into context in order to find that ROI. We get it a lot where we're repeatedly seeing, say, folks who want to challenge unemployment is one of the things we get a lot. And they're concerned about the effect of increasing unemployment costs on their business. And I'm saying we can help you challenge that. I don't think it's a good idea for any particular reason. For no other reason, there's not that much money at stake. But let's go find out why we're hiring so many people that we're having to eventually provide unemployment benefits to. That would be the problem. That's where the value of what we're trying to offer comes into play. That's just one that happens to be on top of my head. I was working on something similar to that this morning.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of extra legal sometimes. Solving the problem sometimes doesn't involve filing anything. Right.
No, holy smokes. You know, that's an interesting place to take the conversation there, Jason, because most folks come to a lawyer wanting them to lawyer things and get the result that they want. And yeah, we have an additional couple tools in our toolkit in order to get there. But ultimately, most of these things, as I've come to think, are still business issues. Yeah. And before we create legal problems out of business issues, let's look at it the way that you do any other business problem. What is the ROI? How quickly are we going to recover our investment for this? Is this in the best long-term interest of our organization? Who are we really, is this the best use of our resources? Dr. Thomas Sowell from the Hoover Institute, he says that there's no such thing as solutions, there's just trade-offs. So if you're going to spend 150 grand, 200 grand on a lawyer in order to address an employment issue, for instance, before you commit to that very uncertain, open-ended process that is not just going to suck up your financial resources, but is a lot of headspace and a lot of disruption in your business, what are the other ways that we could deploy those funds? How are we going to benefit the other 200 employees that you have who are not suing you? What would they prefer that you spend that $200,000 on? How can we make their lives better when they're not kicking you in the shins? How can we put that bad apple in the rearview mirror and move on? That's where, to me, lawyers need to have that perspective. It's not just a matter of doing the client's bidding. Although there is that, it is making sure that they have all of the options available to them. And I don't think that, I think it's becoming increasingly acceptable for lawyers to put their nose into the business issues a little bit on it and get them to get their clients to think through the business decisions, not just the legal issues.
Very insightful, man. That actually makes me think of like the lawyer of the future, right? If a lawyer's value is being not called into question, but maybe per hour value is being diminished by AI, then lawyers need to take a more comprehensive approach to their clients. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that where lawyers are adding value these days is by becoming more of a generalist. Now, law, like medicine and everything else, has a specialist, and I'm not going to help you with your tax concerns. I'm not going to help you with your landlord-tenant because I don't understand that stuff. But even within my specialty of employment work or our other lawyers' transaction experience or asset recovery experience or litigation background, all of that needs to be folded into what AI enables us to do, the very specifics. but we have to be generalists. We have to know how those specifics fold into the context. And then a good lawyer is going to take it even further and put how that context applies to the specific business. So it goes from the very specific to the general down back to the specific again. And I don't think you can do that without having done it for a while. I was talking with a young man who's a HR director at a client, Brassfield Gorey. And he was saying that he thinks that AI is going to result in the death of the specialist. And so we don't need to dispatch entry-level attorneys out to do the specific research. We can do that very, very quickly now. And then more senior attorneys kind of tumble it around, come up with the solution and apply it to the specific circumstances. His name was Ashton. And Ashton brought up, though, that becomes the death of the specialist. And how do we fill the gap and replace the retiring generalists with new generalists if we've never had any specialists from before? So I think that that's a question that the industry, the overall practice is going to have to decide. Where do we find those specialists, the new generalists, when we don't have any specialists?
Yeah.
I think I'll outrun it. I think that in my 15 years that are left in this, hopefully I outrun it.
Yeah. 15 years, huh?
I'm 54. I don't want to. I like what I do, but I don't want to die at my desk.
Yeah,
I'd rather die. I'd rather die with my dog on a golf course.
Golf course sounds pretty good to me. I wonder how you can make that into a business or something you enjoy and get paid doing.
Well, we're much better at the things that we enjoy, and I do fold, as you know, I do fold a lot of the stuff I like into the work. The dogs being one of them. The ridiculous amount of golf that I play. Somebody told me yesterday I look like George Hamilton now, and I guess it was sort of a compliment about how much sun I get. But I don't want to be stuck in the office. I'd rather be out doing stuff.
Yeah. Well, the older I get, the more I learn that sitting in an office, unless you're working on something specific that needs your all your cognitive abilities, doesn't necessarily produce better work than going out and clearing your head on the golf course.
We have to learn how to put things into context, 100%, and that keeps going back to it. Not only does clearing your head help put things into context, being out and having more and more conversations creates opportunities. Right, the more discussions I'm having, the more I'm asking what people are working on, the more people are asking me what I'm working on, the better my ideas are, and that. There's certainly a place for office work, and there's certainly a place for fingers on a keyboard. But I think that I'm going to incorporate both. Yep.
It's like an incubation period, right? Sometimes our thoughts, our ideas, and our processing needs resting, so we can break apart and then come back together correctly.
I think it's that. And I think it's also the case that if this shit were easy, everybody would do it, and it would not be hard, and it would be quick and easy to do. That the stuff that you and I work on a daily basis doesn't have an apparent answer, and if it did, we wouldn't get paid to provide it. And we can tumble things around, and it's not gonna the answer is not gonna manifest immediately. It's going to take reading several different perspectives, and then pulling it back into one that matters. And that might not happen overnight. It might not happen as quickly as you want it to, or a client does. You have to abide by other schedules. But the fact of the matter is that a little bit of perspective goes a long way on that. Yeah.
You're not the first successful lawyer or lawyer that I appreciate as a lawyer who has told me that. If there were an easy answer, then you wouldn't need me, and it wouldn't be a real problem. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess 15 years you've been doing Stanton Law. Is that right?
Stanton Law was started in November of 2011. So yeah, this is our 15th year. We got a good celebration coming up in October to hit that milestone. It has been it's been a pretty good ride.
I'll say. At what point? I mean, starting a firm, any business is tough. It comes with a lot of uncertainty. I don't speak necessarily as someone who I'm a freelancer, right? So I can't say I've started a business, but there are moments probably at the beginning where you're not sure if this is going to work, or you're like, maybe I should pivot and do something a little bit different. At what point did you know this is going to work and I'm going to keep doing it?
Well, I don't think that you ever reach the point where you say this is going to work.
Okay.
I mean, in my experience with other people who have started and been running a business, whether it's for 15 weeks or 15 years, part of what keeps you going is this feeling that you're on the cusp of implosion and bankruptcy all the time.
Yeah.
And that it's very difficult to see that this has provided a really good life for me and my family, even if there had been other decisions that could have been made along the way. So one of the ways that I got started with Stanton Law, I was thinking about it a lot. I was a big law firm lawyer associate, had a nice steady W-2 paycheck that is not what those guys, associates and junior partners, are earning now, to be certain. But a colleague of mine told me that as I was asking what it takes to make partnership and what my future with the firm was going to be, a woman named Elaine Cook said, no, you're asking the wrong question. And instead of asking what it takes to make partner, you need to ask what it takes to build a practice to make partnership inevitable, which is, I heard, is to say all lawyers are self-employed. And I recognized that if I were walking the halls of a midtown law firm, I just had one client, which was my law firm for whom I was working. And that made it a little bit easier to walk out the door. I also talked with a lot of people who had done it before. Every one of them, 12 for 12 of the attorneys I had talked to who had left big law, when I asked them what they would do differently, every one of them said I would have done it earlier. And that was very telling.
Yeah.
And then I noticed, as I walked through this evolution with you, then I noticed that as they left, nobody ever went back. Nobody ever went back to a big law environment once they had left. That's very telling, right? And then the last part, I think maybe it's because I recognized that although nobody went back, I always could. Those places will always need people with a modest book of business. They will always need people willing to grind out hours. I'm never going to be unemployed with respect to this, and I get to choose how I'm going to be employed. So even if I went out and started at Stanton Law and fell flat on my face, whether it was from 2 weeks or 5 years later, I could always go back, and I get to choose that. And where we are now, where we have built a practice, right, we get to decide whether or not partnership is now necessary, whether that's bringing in partners, whether that's joining somebody else. We have all of these options, but it comes from creating that at the beginning. And I remember distinctly, I was running the Peachtree Road Race as Ashley, my wife, and I were talking about, we're in the process of deciding whether this was going to work and whether this was our family's direction. And I was running behind somebody at the Peachtree Road Race. So this must have been July 4th in 2011 before we actually committed to doing this. Yes. And the person in front of me had a shirt on that said, "What would you try if you knew you couldn't fail?" Yeah. And that to me just highlighted the reason we don't do things is because of fear. Because if we knew we were going to succeed in what it is, then it would be no decision. Of course, we would go put our foot in and put the next foot forward and succeed. It's the fear that keeps you from doing it. And my circumstances with a good wife and a good marriage and her W-2 and what I knew we could do alleviated that fear, and we went to try it. Yep. That being said, advocating for people to do something different and kind of chart their own course, certainly a big part of the story.
Well, there's a lot going on there, and I appreciate it from a human perspective and from a life choices perspective. The fear part's really interesting, and it makes me think of the fear of not only failure, but the fear of success. Because, and Dr. Bob Rotella, who's a golf sports psychologist, talks about this a lot. What if I succeed and the people that I used to work with at the law firm who didn't leave, who didn't have the gall to leave, are talking shit about me, and they're thinking, well, he doesn't check in very much, and he thinks that he's got this new model, and we're questioning his ethics now because his model is different. You know how models of professional conduct are very intricate and attenuated, and they're good, but you know that fear of success plays into it. at some point probably played into it too. You didn't.
I
Maybe
don't
it
know
didn't.
that
I don't know.
I don't know that I'm scared of success. Fear of failure is a bigger motivator to me than the fear of success. I, I, I don't know how to address the fear. I'm reading 10X versus 2X right now, which is a Dan Sullivan book. I can't remember the main author. But he talks about in this that where you are starting something new that is you think is a good idea that's going to catapult you, 10x in that language. You have to start something without the confidence and sometimes without the capability. You have to put the first foot out there. You have to step off the diving board in order to see what it is and fly on your own. In my experience, it's worked at least for 14 and a half years now. So your question, when did it get to the point where I know I was going to succeed? Pretty quickly, because I got to define what success was. I lead a good life. I provide a good life for about 20 people who work for Stanton Law. I think I add value to the clients. And so once you get past that, the fear, do I have fear that I'm not going to reach $1 billion? Yeah, because I'm not. And if I have realistic goals for what my success is, I don't necessarily have to live in that fear.
Yeah. It ain't whether you win or lose, it's the game you choose to play.
Right. Yeah. Seth Godin is on that right now too. That we can work. We're more effective when we work within the system, but we need to recognize the system in which we're working. Right. We're always playing a game.
Yeah. Well, that speaks to your own personal standards. And I know you played college baseball. Is that where you picked up a lot of the standards of excellence or standards of success? Where else has that played out?
So if we're going to go to the sports analogy for this, my college baseball days were not it. It was middle school and high school. It was middle school and high school baseball, in which I was fortunate enough to have a variety of coaches and leaders who simply raised the level of expectation. And Coach Steve Franks and Coach Jerry Queen and Coach Alan Chadwick, all from Marist, Coach Jeff Decker. I could run down a list of folks who did not let me settle for the effort I had planned on applying for the day. And they showed that I could, they demonstrated to me, sometimes rather emphatically and profanely, that I had to move faster and go longer. And that to me is where I learned that there's more gas in the tank, typically, and making sure that I understand the job that needs to be done and going to get it done. That's where that work ethic came. The college baseball stuff was a nice way to round out a good career. It is a nice way to take one thing to the next level. But perhaps we won a lot in high school. We did not win as much in college. So there were different lessons coming out of getting your ass kicked every day. You got to find a different way to decide when you're going to win when you're consistently below 500.
Yeah, you got to find the meaning for yourself. If it doesn't translate to wins and loss, to more wins than losses, right?
Yeah, but you and I, that all of my athletic endeavors now have shifted over to golf, which is how you and I have connected as much as anything else. And all of the sort of wispy and nostalgic golf is life pieces. They're only tiresome because they are so true, right? And the analogies that come to what a golf round is like or what a golf career is like, it just mirrors everything else that we have going on. Right?
It does. I hesitate to say that as you are in golf, you are in life, because sometimes I play terrible rounds and I have friends that kick my ass every time I play and did in college. So my ego doesn't want to equate golf life satisfaction to golf success, but it can be very true. I've got a whole project on Claude Cowork right now that's all of my competitive golf rounds that I played in May and everything having to do with them. As a thinking man, and you as a thinking man, golf produces some insights that are a lot easier to hold on to because they have the emotional imprint of a round.
Well, and you see success or failure almost immediately, right? And you can, there are things that are within your control and things without your control, and separating the mistakes that you could not have changed no matter what versus the things that are 100% in your control. That's a pretty good metaphor for life right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I wrote the book, The 95% Rule, about what I've seen 29 things that are true in employment law. It's gotten good traction and it's successful, but what that book is morphed into is a big nod to the serenity prayer, to grant you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If more people will focus on accepting the things they can't change and their attention on the things that they can, we're much more effective as lawyers, we're much more effective as golfers, we're much more effective as husbands and dads and all of those other roles that we play in our life.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying we for the dad part. I am a dog dad. I'm not a human dad yet.
We're all responsible for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. I've not been an employer before, and I often wonder how I would do, but I haven't heard anyone say the serenity prayer comes in play as much as it sounds like it does. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just universal, and I think that when you look at how that has evolved and it's applied in my AA life, how it's applied in my business life, how it applies in my Stoic readings or anything else, there is a reason that smart people keep coming back to that acceptance and recognizing the things you can control, detaching from the things that you're not going to make a difference on. Covey talks about it a lot with the circle of influence versus the circle of concern. Putting your influence into the things in which you make the most difference and that bring you and somebody else happiness, that's where I would like to sit.
Yeah.
Rather than wasting my time on things that aren't going to make a difference.
Yeah.
We all like to be effective.
Yes. It makes me think of a few of the takeaways from my journeys in Costa Rica. And I don't want to put anybody off by going into that, but a couple things about certain things that we're encouraged to take on or offer our concern to that really aren't our concern. That's a really popular thing right now. You get on social media and someone said something about this person.
Your point about your Costa Rican journey. We've visited Costa Rica a couple of times, and the escapism that comes from a different place and learning getting a bigger perspective on how people think in those other cultures, to me, it does nothing but lend. And I don't think this is revelatory. It makes me a better thinker and a better applied thinker as well.
For sure. But you said like it's no secret, but at the same time, I forget that very often. And a lot of people can know it intellectually, but to emotionally really understand that is a different thing. Maybe that's why I try to go back every year.
Well, we have to continue to put our finger on that mindfulness pulse.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we're never going to be completely awake. We're never going to be completely within the unmanifested, as Eckhart Tolle would say. We have to keep reminding ourselves and increase the frequency and the duration of those interludes of awareness. Catching ourselves, being aware, catching ourselves of doing this intentionally, not multitasking, being present for the podcast, being present for the project that you're doing, being present for the conversation with your wife. Those are the things that you have to remind yourself to do, because otherwise it's going to slide by without it. And it's got to be more than just taking a mental picture of it. I can take a mental snapshot of what this podcast is like, and I can say, I'm going to remember this. I'm having a nice time. I don't think that that's it. I think it's more than this to say, I'm going to be present while we're chatting, and I'm not going to think about the other 1,000 things. Right.
Well, as someone who has tried to get the attention of many firm owners, I really appreciate that, because I know how much is probably right by your door right now and on your desk.
Yeah, there's a list of stuff that I need to do today.
Yeah.
Unquestionably.
Well, let's do two more then. Is there anything that gets misunderstood about your work that you probably touched on already, but you want to reiterate, make sure people understand about your work?
This is going to sound so cheesy. It is that I really do care. I'm not here to churn a file. I'm not here to bill another hour. This sounds snotty, not just cheesy. another $600 hour isn't making my year. That's not what I'm looking at here. I'm not looking to accrete that. I really am looking to solve problems. And it happened yesterday. A client comes back to me, not understanding the value that we provided. I see that as my problem for not having articulated the value appropriately. But it is not a matter of lawyers doing, at least in this shop, doing things just for the sake of doing them or for the sake of increasing a bill. We're trying to solve problems. And at the end of the day, sometimes those problems take longer than the client thinks. And so when we're approaching this, I think that it all goes to relationships. That is the goal here. And the trust has to flow both ways. They have to trust that I'm providing them my best at any particular time. And I have to trust them that they're not going to, clients are not going to second guess the work that we did. And so in all of the billing disputes that we've ever had on these things, it is newer clients who don't understand. We don't get because there's no relationship there. There's no trust and communication going back and forth. So I wish that if I were going to wave a magic wand and have people informed about something that they might not think about, is to recognize that choosing their professional service provider, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's an insurance broker, I don't care. Finding somebody with whom you have a good relationship and that trust flows back and forth. That's the most important part of this. It's not an hourly rate. It's not the project rate. It's the benefit that the client is receiving at the end of the day that I wish they understood more.
Yeah. I love what you said about taking responsibility for your own method or own skills in communicating the value that you provided. That's I haven't heard that take, like, because I'm so often lawyers and clients have misunderstandings, and the client thinks, well, I got billed $1,000 and all you did was type some things out, right? And then the lawyer can't put it into human terms, so then everybody's unhappy. But I really like what you said about taking responsibility for that. And as a Mercer lawyer, it begs the question. Oh, sorry, my phone's ringing. What a bad time for that. What Mercer has, their curriculum includes a few different like intangible legal skills, right? Or they take a lot of pride in their legal writing program. They take a lot of pride in their legal research program. I wonder if there would be room for a class or two, third year, second year, third year, about being able to articulate what you do for a client.
Well, I think it goes a little broader than that. I think that law school does a good job of helping lawyers think like lawyers and put you in the proper footing from which to go earn your living. But where a law firm business is still a law firm, it's still a business at the end of the day, and it is finding the work, which to me also comes from relationships. It's finding good employees, which comes from relationships. It is finding the most effective ways to resolve disputes or put deals together, which requires relationships with opposing counsel. So the more we're talking, the more we're communicating, the more, in my opinion, the more we're making ourselves vulnerable with respect to this stuff, the more effective practitioners we're going to be ultimately. Whether or not law schools are going to start teaching those softer skills on how to run a business, how to get the business, how to get the work from clients, and then how to effectively, not just efficiently serve those clients, could be a law school course. Whether or not the demographic that's in law school right now, or the ages of people who are going to law school are open to that perspective, becomes a different question. Some of this, I'm 54, I'll be 54 this year. Some of this I did not have the ability to process 25, 30 years ago when I was in school.
Yeah, well,
we may be wasting our time teaching it, quite honestly.
Yeah, and we also maybe the brains of 24 and 25-year-olds are just fully forming. I know mine was, and it feels like sometimes it still is. But
forming or pickling, one of the two.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just do one more question here, because I think 45 minutes is good. If a 28-year-old version of you walked into your office today, it can be 28, it can be between 25 and 30, say. Smart, probably starting at Powell Goldstein, Brian Cave now. What is the first thing you'd want to tell them?
Keep your perspective. Learn what battles are worth fighting would be the first one. You don't have to be right all the damn time. I would keep things in perspective with that. And as part of that, the very, very important part of that, the people who have enjoyable lives in this profession are the people with a book of business. They are not service partners. They are not service associates. They are people who have developed relationships that the work follows them around, and they have options to go choose when and where and how they work. Finding the relationships, nurturing the relationships in order to build a book of business creates more options than anything else. I have people who do come in here later than the ages you're talking about and say, I'm ready to start building a book. And I'm saying that best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And I'm not saying you can't do it now, but the earlier you get started tending to relationships with a long-term goal of servicing and being useful, that's the emphasis for a new lawyer. Don't just focus on the legal skills. Those are table stakes. The people who are going to be successful in this by whatever measure are the people with the best relationships and the people who are self-reliant for the work, even if they're interdependent with respect to getting the work done.
Yeah. I like the interdependent part too, because I think that speaks to building trust. If you tell a client, I don't have the answer for you right now, to me, that's a better long-term communication strategy than pretending that you might. Yeah.
Well, the only reason I'm going to disagree with you on that,
okay,
and I think that new lawyers get tripped up a lot on thinking that there is going to be a right answer on something like that, that if they just research it more, they're going to come up with something. And I think that an epiphany that lots of lawyers have as we get older is figuring out that nobody knows this stuff. And that my opinion and my reasoned assessment of a particular situation is just as important as anybody else's. If I have the final decision-making authority of something, I'm going to have to decide the best path ahead. If I'm just offering options, I can continue to offer them options that are just as valid as somebody else's with a different experience. My point being that lawyers, I think, at some point recognize that everybody is faking it to some degree. Nobody has the certainty that they are conveying on things. And if they do, that's a question. Right? You can't learn something you already know, think you already know. So that advice there, broader perspective, develop your business and learn that everybody is faking it. Put your foot forward and go, right? Make your way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wonder if I can implement that into what I'm doing now, what I'm trying to do now. Sure I can in at least some way.
Define you just define what your win is, and it's much easier to achieve those goals when you've already set them.
Yeah. Huh. Well, Todd, man, thank you so much for taking your time and giving me your full attention here. I really appreciate it. It's good to catch up with you.
It's great to catch up with you. I look forward to getting back out on the golf course soon.
Yeah, love it. I've played in a few tournaments in May. They're amateur based for business owners. They're on Mondays. So maybe it's worth trying to get you in a couple of those. I've learned that I either like to play in a golf tournament and be serious or totally screw around. And the in-between stuff is
well, I start off being completely serious and then the wheels come off and then I decide I'm going to screw around. So I get the best of both worlds in most of my rounds.
Yeah. And then sometimes you might play better during the latter phase, right?
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much. I'm going to might as well turn off the recording now.